Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Aaron's Opinion, the podcast for blind people where we speak about critical issues in the blindness community and all other issues from across the universe and galaxy. Today, we are joined by someone who I've known of in the community for a long time. He's a musician. He has a radio show. He's doing a lot around the community. John Dowling Jr. joins us now. All right. I'll basically get ready to mute my microphone and ask you the question I ask everybody. But as I always like to say, don't forget to tell us everything you want us to know. And don't tell me anything don't tell me anything you don't want me to repeat. But of course, who is John Dowling Jr.? You can tell the whole life story, the music, the radio show, the podcast, the everything left, right, up, down, and in between. So go for it. Go right ahead.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Aaron, for allowing me to be on this podcast. I've been a listener to yours for a while now. Not as long as I wished. I started listening actually right around the time you published the episode where you interviewed Brandon Hennis. Brandon is a very good friend of mine. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he's a cool guy, and it was really cool to hear him on the podcast. And it was really neat that, you basically had to do 3 parts of it, which is pretty cool. That just shows how much he had to say about his life, and that was cool. But for people who don't know me, my name is John Dowling Jr. I am 24. I'll be 25 in about a month and a half. I was born in New Jersey. Well, I was born technically in Philadelphia, but I grew up a lot in the New Jersey area. And I'm a country singer. I'm a songwriter. I'm a radio broadcaster and a new up-and-coming podcaster as well, so that's going to be fun. Well, let's see, where should I even start from? Well, I was born on October 8th, 2000, so I'm, pretty young, but a lot of the country music and the even TV shows that I watch are pretty old-fashioned. I love traditional country music, guys like Hank Williams and George Jones and Merle Haggard. They're, like my heroes and influences. And actually, in September of 2023, I got to go to Montgomery, Alabama, and see Hank's grave, and that was an experience because, so Hank Williams Sr., for those who don't know, was born on September 17th, 1923. So, 100 years after his birth, I got to go back and see where he was buried, and I went to the Hank Williams Museum and got some cool little gadgets and stuff. That was fun. But I'm getting kind of ahead of myself. I kind of want to talk about how I kind of got to that point in my life and what kind of led me to that. So I was born blind. I have a condition known as retinopathy prematurity. So I was born premature. I was born about 23 weeks early, and I was very tiny. I weighed 1 pound, 3 ounces. And I was a twin, but sadly my twin brother did not survive. It was sad, but I'm very glad that I'm here, and nothing happened to me, thank God. I've loved music pretty much since I can remember. It's kind of crazy, actually. I remember when I was 5 years old, sitting on the floor with this toy keyboard that I had gotten as a birthday present, and I was watching the Backyardigans, which is like a kid show from the early 2000s, and I remember I heard the theme song, the closing, the ending theme, because the opening theme has words and lyrics, but the closing theme was all instrumental, and so I heard the melody, and I somehow my brain was able to not only figure out what notes were being played, but I was also able to transpose them, because the song is in the key of D, but I played it in the key of C. So that to me, and like just thinking about it now, is absolutely insane. Like that's kind of crazy how even as young kids our brains are doing so much activity, and that's very fascinating to me. Um, and after I, did that with the piano thing, it just took off. As far as the music goes, I was very fortunate and lucky to live next door to a musician, and he kind of got me started on the piano. He would let me go to his house sometime and play the piano, and that was fun. And then he bought me a ukulele. This is, of course, back when I was. This is when I was living in Jersey. Um, I lived in it. We lived in a town called what was it? It was called Delran, uh, and it was right across the tracks from Philadelphia because we had a lot of family over in Philly, and so we would find ourselves crossing that bridge to go right into Pennsylvania, and I had a couple of aunts, and my grandparents lived over in Philly, and so I'd go to their houses and hang out and stuff. But going back to my next door neighbor, he bought me a ukulele, and that was the first string instrument I ever learned how to play. I only really started picking up the guitar and playing it seriously about 6 years ago. I mean, before then I had a guitar and I was noodling around with it, but I didn't really know how to play it properly. In fact, I would actually usually play in open tunings, and I would just kind of fret up the fretboard, and it was a very interesting way to play. But then, about 6 years ago, actually, it might have even been less than that. It might have been like 5 years ago, because during the pandemic with COVID, we were all kind of stuck in our houses. I was still in high school at the time because had I'd been held back, but we'll save that for maybe like 25 minutes from now or something like that. But during the pandemic, after classes, I wouldn't have anything to do, so I would usually hang out and smoke some weed and play on the guitar, and it was cool because I listened to all of my heroes, Hank Williams and Waylon Jennings, Merle Haggard, and just listening to that stuff, I was very much like a sponge. I was just soaking everything up, man. And now when I play music now, I'm kind of I'm channeling all of their different styles into one, and it's really, really cool. But now I'll kind of talk a little bit about my school journey and how that was. So during kindergarten, like preschool kindergarten, I was in a mainstream school, and that was very interesting because, they didn't really know what to do with me because they had never really taught blind people before. So I would get a teacher from the Commission for the Blind over in New Jersey. She would come to my school and for 2 days, and she would teach me how to read Braille a little bit. And for some reason, as a young kid, I did not like that. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on, but I used to apparently I used to bang on the Braille writer a lot, and I'm wondering if I was doing that because I wanted to, because I was so musical that I wanted to, maybe make music or something. I don't know. But so that was interesting, and then eventually I joined this acting group for people with disabilities. It was called Acting Without Boundaries, and that's when I met, or I should say, my mom met this kid named Simon, and Simon was also blind, or I should say, is also blind. He is very active in the community, and his mom told my mom about this school in Philadelphia it was a Catholic blind school called St. Lucie Day School, and it's still being run to this day. And it was it was a day school, so it was not a lot of blind schools are very boarding school-like in the fact that you have to stay there every day, whereas this was just a day school, so you got to go home after the day was done, which was cool. My wife lived in or I should say she went to the Minnesota Academy for the Blind, and it was a boarding school, and I've read stories about people who went to Perkins and stuff, and I wanted to go to Perkins for a while, but I just, that was just never really on the radar because Boston was a little farther away, and I don't know. I kind of wish I had gone because I feel like maybe if I had gone, I wouldn't have been so sheltered, because I feel like for a while I was very sheltered because my parents were very overprotective of me, and I was not a fan of that. And well, yeah, it was definitely very interesting growing up with overprotective parents. They wouldn't really, and it was more my mom. My dad was a little bit more supportive of me, I feel like, but my mom really wouldn't allow me to do anything by myself, and it got so bad to the point where in 2016, when I went to the NFB convention, I actually was able to get a scholarship to go there, so we didn't have to pay for anything. The only downside is I think I was required to go to a lot of these different seminars and stuff, when the only reason that I wanted to go to convention was to hang out with my friends and go to the exhibit hall when that was open, because I was also very much into technology at the time. And I was sitting in the pool hanging out with a friend of mine, and he mentioned that there was a couple of training centers around the Louisiana and the Colorado areas, and he was like, would you want to go there? And I thought about it, but I was a little bit scared to do that, so I was like, well, I don't really know. And looking back at it now, my mom agreed with that, and she was like, I don't think you should go and all this stuff. And but looking back at it now as an adult, I'm just like, man, I really wish you had have said something like, hey, you should try it, because I want you to be more independent. But she didn't, which was very strange. And looking back at it now, I kind of resent her for doing that, because of course, I was scared to do something like that, but also I think if she had encouraged me to do it, and if I had gone to one of those training centers, I feel like that would have been really good for me, because I feel like it would have, first of all, it would have boosted my confidence. And I just feel like I would have gotten a better hold on what the real world is like, I guess, because I don't know. I just feel like because I was self-sheltered, I really didn't get to see what the world was like, except when my parents would, bring me outside or whatever, because I didn't really go outside. I mean, I went outside, I would, play with my cousins and stuff, but that wasn't really the same thing as I don't know, just going out to the movies or whatever. I never really did that. I mostly would just watch, you know, DVDs at home on my little portable DVD player. And I was also like I said, I was an only child. My parents never had children after me. And so I was kind of lonely growing up, because I didn't really have anyone else that was really, I mean, I had cousins that were my own age, but they were sighted. And I feel like they were kind of in their own different universe. And, so that was really tough until, until 2011 when I got my first iPhone, and that really opened up a lot of doors for me. I got the iPhone 4S. I remember that. And, man, that thing was cool. It was so cool getting to play with Siri, and I think I still have some old recordings of my 11-year-old self, looking up funny YouTube videos and stuff like that. And, yeah, and then I was introduced to Skype, and I started to add people from our community, and it was cool. I was in some very interesting group calls. Yeah, and my school life was very interesting. Like I said before, it was a blind Catholic school, so that was very interesting. You had to wear a certain uniform. You could not just wear whatever you wanted. You had to wear, in the wintertime, you had to wear a sweater, a button-down shirt, and a tie, and sort of khaki pants with a belt. And then in the springtime, it was a little bit more formal. You got to wear polo shirts and the belt and the pants. And you had to wear a certain kind of shoe as well. Like that kind of dress shoes. And that was very interesting. It was cool though. I enjoyed it. There wasn't any, it wasn't like the Catholic schools of old. There was no corporal punishment, nothing like that, thank God. And it was cool. I mean, I wasn't very religious. I do believe in God and Jesus. But I wouldn't really take it to the religious extreme, excuse me, that, a lot of people, in our Christian society hold. I think, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit too much. I really don't think that, that if you do some bad stuff, listen to rock and roll or, whatever, curse or smoke weed or whatever, drink, I don't think you're going to go to hell. I think in order to go to hell, I think you have to do something very, very, very bad, like murder. But, I don't think that if you, curse or whatever, that you're going to go to hell. I think God is very lax when it comes to stuff like that, because he knows that we're human. Yeah, I really liked the music though, man. In church, we had this really cool organ, and man, that thing was awesome. I never got to play it. I wish I could have. Sadly, the school is not at the location that it used to be in. It changed locations back in 2019. So I don't know, and I don't remember the address of the old building, so I don't, I can't really go back there. And I'm not even in the same state anymore. I moved to Minnesota, but we'll talk about that more later on. But I liked the music, not just in church, but also during other classes. Like we had I mentioned my friend Simon. His mom was actually the music teacher, which was pretty dope. That was pretty awesome. And we got, I got very close. Became very close with her and Simon as a young kid. And sometimes I would go over to their house for a sleepover. And And that was fun, man. It was awesome. Especially around 2013 when I got my first, or no, I'm sorry, 2011. I got my first iPhone. I would show Simon sometimes. And then in 2013, he got an iPod Touch. And that was cool. I would show him some different apps that he could install, and he got into Skype, and it was cool, man. Yeah, and then around 2013, 2014, I started kind of goofing off in class a little bit, and well, let me actually go a little bit further back to before I started first grade at the St. Lucie Day School. When I was in kindergarten, I mentioned that I told you guys already that I got taught from a Braille teacher from the Commission for the Blind twice a week. She came, I believe it was every Tuesday and Thursday, but I could be wrong. And so I only got taught Braille twice a week, and I was not very, I did not want to learn it for some odd reason. I don't know why. But because of that, I really didn't learn it. So when I went to the blind school, I didn't really know Braille too much. So then I had to get held back. My first grade, I got held back during first grade because I didn't really know Braille. So they had to basically repeat a grade because I had to spend the first, the first year learning it, and then the second year was actually completing first grade, which I did. And I'm glad to say that the only other time I repeated a grade was in sixth grade, and that was due to, let's just say I did not like to do homework. And so I would rebel against that and just not do my homework. And I would soon learn that that was not a very good idea and that you should probably do your homework, because if you didn't, then you just keep getting held back. So during my second year of sixth grade, I straightened out and started doing my homework, and it was cool. And so then, as a consequence of repeating first and sixth grade, I graduated high school when I was 20 years old in June of 2021. Which was very interesting. It was very odd being in a school of, 17-year-olds and being the one 20-year-old. It was interesting. But it was cool because the students were very nice to me. And that's another thing that I want to talk to you guys about is after the grade school, I did briefly go to Catholic high school, but after the first year, that totally sucked because the people, the staff there didn't really know how to work with me, and the blind, the state, because at that time I was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania for their state services for the blind, or whatever you want to call them. They were not really doing their job, and so we decided to move back to New Jersey, and I went to a high school in a town called Cinnaminson, which is close to the Delran town that I was the Delran town that I was talking about. And that was public high school, and that was really cool because, you could wear whatever you wanted. You were not committed to this uniform that you had to wear every day. You could wear anything, and that was very freeing, and you didn't have to worry about religion class or any of that shit. And it was cool, and I think 10th grade was that was really the year that I sort of found myself, because my history teacher in 10th grade was a musician, and his name was Sean McGee, and so sometimes we would, I will admit that some of the conversations were definitely derailed to talk about music, although that wasn't, they weren't derailed as much as they were in my 11th grade history teacher's classroom, because that teacher was also a musician, which is very ironic. And I think that was cool because from my 10th grade history teacher, he gave me a CD because he was in a band in 2012 called the Black River Kings. And they only made one record. It was a self-titled album, and so it was called the Black River Kings. And it was cool because it was very much, I don't know how to describe it. It was like country meets southern rock meets blues almost. It was cool. There were a couple of tracks on there that I liked. I liked one called Helping Hand. That was my favorite, and actually it was, I was so obsessed with it that at one point I actually made it a ringtone, and it's on my phone. And that's another thing with me is I have a very severe case of OCD. So when I get obsessed with something, it becomes absolutely insane. And so, that was cool. And well, I think I'll talk to you guys about my grandparents next, because my grandmother on my mom's mom, I never got to know her, unfortunately. She died, I think it was like a month after I was born, so I really didn't get to see much of her. It's not anything that I remember. But my mom's father, he lived until I was about 5 years old, and I had a very close relationship with him. He was a great guy. Apparently he was also a musician. I didn't get to talk to him about that because, when I was 5, I really didn't articulate much about my musical abilities, and he died pretty early on in 2005. I think he died in like April, and I started playing that music in I started doing the backyarding and sing, I think, in like June or July. Now these are all guesstimations because I don't really remember, and let's just say I've smoked a lot of weed since then, so my memory ain't what it used to be. But yeah, and then my grandfather on my dad's side passed in 2006, and my grandmother on my dad's side just recently passed away. This year, in fact, but I was not very close with her, and so her death didn't really affect me. But I was very close with my mom's father and my dad's father, and it was very sad when they passed away. Yeah. And right around 2006 is when I got my first iPod. Before then, I had swiped this MP3 player that my dad was using, and I was playing with it a little bit. So then one day he noticed that I had it, and so he took it and he put some music on there that I would like to listen to, because there was a bunch of stuff in it that I wasn't really interested in. And there was put a lot of kids' songs there. There was some, Larry Gross, like the 70s stuff that he did. There was some Raffi on there. And that kind of really opened a door for me, and it really introduced me to a lot of, country. And I think that's kind of where my love of country and folk comes from, is because, that Larry Gross stuff, there was a lot of folk kind of references in there, and there was a lot of country instruments in some of those songs. Like, there were some banjos and guitars and whatnot. Um, and then when the iPod came around and he gave me that, there was a lot more diverse music on there. There wasn't a lot of kids stuff. There was still some kids music on there, but there was a lot of country. There wasn't a lot of traditional country. There was a lot of kind of the modern country of the day, but that was okay because modern country hadn't. It was kind of slowly going to shit. There was still a lot of really good music out there. It really didn't hit bro country until 2014, which by then I was way out of that. I had stopped listening to the radio a long time before then. But in 2007, country music was still pretty good. And there was a lot of country on that iPod. He put a lot of Motown on there as well. And when I was going through the songs, it painted me a picture of what my dad's interests were, because he liked a lot of because he grew up in the 60s, so he liked a lot of that, old 60s Motown and pop and early rock and roll, and that was cool. And he put in some classic country, not a lot. The three songs that I remember that stuck out in the classic country era and the classic country section were a live version of There He Goes by Patsy Cline. It was live from the Opry. And one thing that was interesting was years later when I listened to that song again, I realized that the live version, the man doing the introduction to that song, more just introducing her more than the song, was actually Jim Reeves, which was kind of cool for me because Jim is one of my really big influences. But, that song was a staple on the iPod. There was also Loretta Lynn's Coal Miner's Daughter, which that's a classic. And then, what was that? There was one other song. I think it was probably Thank God I'm a Country Boy by John Denver, and it was the live version. It wasn't the pre-recorded, the studio version. It was the live version, which I think is better anyway, because it's more upbeat, I think. Jeez. Let's see. In 2008, I got a Beagle Boxer mix, and I named him Chase, and he was a cool dude, man. He was an awesome dog. Me and him used to play all the time, and he was a great dog. And then in 2014, for Christmas, I got another dog. He was a tiny little fella. He was a Lhasa Pekingese, and I named him Gizmo. And he was a tiny little dog, man. He was, like, you could comfortably fit him in your lap, man. He was that small and tiny. He was cool, though. Sadly, he would end up, not passing away, but he liked to do this thing where he would crawl under the couch for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know if there was something hidden under there, maybe that that maybe only he could see or whatever. But sadly, one day he did it, and our Beagle Boxer didn't know that he was under there, and he was jumping on the couch, and somehow my dog's his hip broke or something, and so his back legs stopped working, and that was really sad, because it was just after that he would just started declining, he would just be crawling around all the time because he couldn't use his back legs. And so at some point we took him to the SPCA, and I think they ended up putting him down, which is really, man, I mean, that was some heavy shit, man. That was really sad. And I wrote a song about that a little bit. I still haven't published it, though, because I have to kind of refine the lyrics a little bit more. But I did write a tribute to my dog Chase in my first original album. That is, you can hear on all the major streaming platforms if you look under the name John Dowling Jr. But I'll talk more about that later on, because there's a lot that went into that album and a lot of changes that I had to go through to even sit down and write that record. So after I graduated high school, that was around 2021, I stayed home a lot, because I didn't really have anywhere to go, and I was trying to find some work, and that wasn't really helping. So, what I started to do before I graduated, I started finding some bars and places around the New Jersey area that would let me play. And that was working out pretty good. I got some good tips. And it was cool. I didn't really see a lot of them, I'll be honest, because in addition to my mom being very overprotective, she, like a lot of blind parents, after I turned 18, she took my Social Security check to pay for rent and whatnot. I don't know how much of the Social Security check was spent on things for me and how much of it was spent on some other things. But she is an alcoholic, and it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of the money that was my Social Security, that came from my check, was used to buy things. And, I'm sure she probably took a lot of the tips that I received. Now, I don't really know. I don't have any proof that she did any of this, but, I don't know, man. I can just tell. And doing the live gig thing, that was working out pretty good. And, it was fun. And then around May of 2022, I think it was, or no, it might have been 2021, actually, I got a really good, tip from the bar. And I went and took that money, and I went to Guitar Center, and I bought my very first professional guitar, and it's a guitar that I still have to this day. It is a Martin Streetmaster, and this Martin is great, man. I play this thing all the damn time, and it's really definitely become a part of my life, and I don't really know what I'd do without it. And so it was cool for a while. I enjoyed, staying home and whatnot, but then it kind of started to get boring, especially because the guy that me and my mom were staying with, well, he was kind of an asshole, and he didn't like me, and this is kind of the kicker of it, is, now, it makes sense that he didn't want me to smoke weed in the house, right? I'm not complaining about that. But, I had other means of consuming the herb, so I didn't just have the flower. I was putting it in a bong and lighting it. I also had, vape cartridges. And, this guy didn't even want me to vape inside, which is very strange, because with vape cartridges, you cannot smell the weed. It's not as pronounced as if you were, lighting up, with the flower, because that definitely has a very distinct smell to it. But with the cartridges, there's not really a smell, so I don't really know what he was getting at. I'm wondering if that was just kind of a control technique, though. It honestly really wouldn't surprise me because um, a lot of crazy shit went on in that house, man. And uh, so, after, because I started smoking pot in 2019, and I remember the date very well. It was July 8th, 2019. It was at the National Federation of the Blind's convention in Las Vegas, and it was cool because I was hanging out with some friends of mine, and we went into one of our friends' hotel bathroom, and this guy had a bong, and we got some pot, and we blazed in the bathroom, and that was pretty cool. That was a pretty special moment for me because, a lot of people say that their first time smoking is, a joint or whatever with their cousin, but like mine was a bong, and a bong is already pretty insane, so that was pretty cool. But I will say I coughed a lot, man. Oh my God, it was insane. But so I'd been smoking at that point, if we're talking 2021, I've been smoking for about 2 years now. And, so it was just very annoying, to have to go outside, especially during the winter time, just to, vape or whatever. And vaping was honestly the only thing I could do by myself because I was very nervous about lighting, using a lighter to light the bowl of the pipe or bong. And, so the vape was really the only easiest way for me other than, getting edibles, eating gummies. But I didn't like the gummies because they took too long to activate. Like, I need that shit. When I smoke, when I get high, I need to smoke and then within the next 5 minutes to be able to feel it, or else I don't know. I just don't think it's worth it. But then again, I feel like edibles have their own place. And, if that's all you have, then, hey man, that's, who am I to judge? But just in my opinion, I could not just keep eating edibles. But it was very infuriating because, I shouldn't have to go outside in 13-degree weather during the wintertime just to fucking, smoke and have a good time. Especially because, it would be snowing, dude. So, like, I'd have to get my snow boots on. A lot of the chairs that I would sit in, to enjoy my high were all covered in snow and shit. And, like, we had a little, Pete's house had this, Pete is the boyfriend. He had his yard it was a pretty nice backyard, dude. Like, it had an in-ground pool and stuff, and there was, like, a little awning with these, like, little, outside furniture, chairs and stuff, and the chairs had cushions, they were removable, so during the winter time or whatever, you could remove them and place them somewhere where they wouldn't get snowed on. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but then, when you're high, when you want to get high and you want to enjoy your high, and your mom's boyfriend's being a fucking controlling asshole, and it's like, well, you need to vape outside because, I can smell your vape, even though, like, dude, you fucking can't, dude. It's on your fucking head, and you're being stupid. But, so it would totally ruin my high, man, because, I'd have to go outside and smoke, like, standing up, like, in the fucking cold, and it would just suck, and, then I'd have to, like, run inside before the weed got to me, because, if I was, outside and I was already getting high, then it was gonna kind of suck, because I was gonna be cold as hell, and, like, it wouldn't have been worth it. And so then in February of 2022, I got a vaporizer for, like, actual, like for the flower, because the vape that I was smoking before were from cartridges, so they were the oil of the cannabis plant. But this vaporizer that I got in 2022, you could actually grind up the weed flower and put it inside the vaporizer, and you would turn the vape on. It would act as sort of like a little oven. It would kind of bake it in a way, but it wouldn't combust. So like, it would bake it it would heat it up just enough to get all the terpenes and all the THC and stuff into air that you could vape and inhale and stuff. It's very complex stuff, but I got that because I thought that, well, maybe this could be different. Maybe I could actually smoke weed in the house, if I just open up a window, because even though it's not the same as lighting up and getting that same distinct weed smell, you're still going to smell the weed itself, because you're going to, when you open up the jar and get the weed out to grind it up, you're going to obviously smell that. So, you'd open up the window to kind of air out your room. And they were still bitching about that. So that was rather annoying. And so then a year later, in 2023, I met my my then girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, but I met my wife in April of 23, and we started talking for a little bit, and then we invited her to my house for a hangout, because we wanted to meet in person, and my folks wanted to meet her, and so it was cool. And my wife is a Minnesota native, and my mom was asking her some of the accessibility things that Minnesota has to offer, and and all that stuff. And so that happens, and then she goes back home for a while, and then she comes back in August of 23. And we go down to, because we had this tradition where every year we'd go down to North Carolina to the Outer Banks and hang out for a week. And so she went to the Outer Banks with us for a week, and it was alright. It kind of sucked though, because it was like a family vacation, so there were it wasn't just our family, it was a couple of other friends of Pete's, and they had these kids, man. They were like, and they're like teenagers, right? So they're like 14. And those little bastards, man, oh my god. They were little fuckers, because they would like stop, because we were sleeping on the bottom floor of because it was like a 3-story house or some shit or something. And we were sitting on the very bottom, and everybody else was on the top. And by we, I mean me and my girlfriend. Everybody else was sleeping on the top, and these goddamn kids figured out exactly where we were sleeping, like, from where that was above them, and they would just like stomp very loudly on the floor, and like, so we could hear that shit like vibrating, and it was very annoying. And so then we were like, okay, we are never doing this shit again. And by we, I mean me and my girlfriend. And a couple of weeks later, I just decided that I had enough of this shit, because it was just too much. And so luckily, in 2018, when my mom made me put my Social Security account in a different bank account, it was still under my name. So all I had to do was call the bank and pretend like, well, I wasn't pretending, but I would just be like, hey guys, my name is John Dowling. I don't remember what my, account and routing numbers are, because that's what you needed to give to Social Security to, give them to bring your check over to a different bank account. And by this time, I was using the Chime bank, and I'm still using Chime, actually. So I get my checks about 2 days early, which is pretty cool. But so I called my previous bank where the Social Security check was, and I was like, hey, guys, my name is John Dowling. I forgot my account and routing numbers. And they're like, okay, we just need to give you, we just need some information for you. And, so they needed my Social Security number, and I knew what that was, and all that stuff. And so they were able to give me my account and routing numbers. And so then I called Social Security, and I had them put the check into a different bank account. And ever since September of 2023, sorry, I cannot English today, apparently, I have been receiving my own disability check. So it goes straight to my account now, so that's great. And so, I was getting tired of all this shit, so I was like, you know what, this is dumb. So I called some friends, because my girlfriend at the time was homeless, so she didn't have anywhere that I could stay. So I called some friends who were living in Kentucky, and that we are no longer speaking, unfortunately. They turned out to be assholes, and they stabbed me in the back, but that's coming up. But I called these friends who were living in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was like, hey guys, this is like my experience, and they know what I was going through, because in May of 2023, I had gone to Georgia to hang out with these friends, and they saw how my mom was acting, because she had to come with me, because she didn't think I could take the plane ride by myself. But she told me that she was only going to drive me down to Georgia, and then she would go to a different hotel room with one of our aunts, because one of our aunts came along with us. But she lied to me, and she told me that, and she only told me after the fact that she would be staying in that same hotel. Obviously not, I don't think, probably not on the same floor, but even still, like, that's pretty fucked up to lie to someone, man. Like, you can't do that. And so my friends got to see how she was acting in real time, and on the last day that we were supposed to go home, well, at least on the last day that my mom wanted to go home, I was like, well, I don't want to go home, because we still had a couple of days left of hanging out. And the hotel was already paid for, like my friends had paid for it. And so I was like, you know what, I'm not going to leave with you, it's like, there's nothing you can do about it. And so what we did was we had to end up hiding me in a different room, because we were afraid that because she knew where I was staying. So we were afraid that if she knew where I was staying, that she could figure out a way to, like, pull me out of that hotel room and stuff. So we went into a different room, and she was able to find out which room I was in, but luckily it was locked. And so she just kept knocking on it, and I was like, dude, I'm not going with you. Like, I'm staying here. And so she left. So essentially she basically stranded me in this hotel room, because at this time I didn't have my Social Security check, so I didn't have any money to go back home. So literally my friends had to all pitch in and help me get a flight to go back home. So that was insane. And so that kind of started the ball rolling of me being like, okay, this needs to change. And so when I got my Social Security rerouted, and when I got paid that September, actually I think I got paid early in August, like late August. So I was able to call Southwest Airlines, and I was able to get a flight from Philadelphia, because that was the closest airport to us, all the way in Philly, Pennsylvania. And so I was able to get a flight from Philadelphia International Airport to the Louisville, which I believe was that I think that was the Muhammad Ali Airport. I think that's what it's called, right? And yeah, and I was able to get a pretty cheap flight for that. I think it was like, I don't know, God, I don't even remember. I think it was maybe like $280. No, maybe it might have even been less. Maybe it was like 170, maybe. I could be totally fucking wrong. Who knows? And yeah, so I left on September 3rd of 2023. I left New Jersey behind forever. I haven't been back since, and I'm kind of glad of that. I feel a lot more freer. But Kentucky, well, I thought Kentucky was a safe haven. It was fine for the first couple of weeks. You know, because like I mentioned at the beginning of September of that year, on the 17th, I got to go to Alabama. My girlfriend took me to Alabama, which was awesome. That was a really great surprise. And you know, so after we got back from there and we went to Kentucky, well, she went back to Michigan to stay with one of her own friends, and then I went back to Kentucky. And, you know, so everything was fine for a while. And then in October, that's kind of when shit started to go a little south with my friends. Or should I say my ex-friends now. But, well, so my birthday is October 8th, as I mentioned before. And that year was the first birthday that I would be without my family. So my girlfriend and my friends decided to, you know, throw a little surprise party for me. And it was mostly my girlfriend, my friends, because we were all musicians, so we played like music and stuff, and that was cool. But me and my girlfriend, we went and we went to some thrift stores and we got some records and we got some, what else did we do? I think we got some ice cream or something. It was cool. But I keep calling my girlfriend, my wife was supposed to leave to go see a friend. But then this friend started acting a little crazy, and she was like, well, you know what, actually, I think you should just cancel your flight. And my wife was like, well, okay, well, now I'm in kind of a situation because I can cancel the flight, but I'm not going to get all my money back, and I won't be able to get a flight to, you know, like, I don't really have anywhere else to live because she wasn't living at that, the friend's house in Michigan anymore. And so my other friends were like, all right, well, you know, I guess you can stay. That's fine. And so, you know, everything was fine for a little bit. And then, in November, no, like in late October, shit started getting very weird, man. They said that, they thought that my wife was, like, because they wanted me to stay in Kentucky, but, like, I wanted to go to Minnesota because that's where my wife was going to go. And, by the way, we weren't married at this point. We got married in December of last year. So we were still, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. But, like, you know, I was still very much in love with her. And so I wanted to, and I cannot do long-distance relationships, man. I tried. It is not for me. But I was not about to just give this relationship up. So I was like, well, you know, guys, I really, you know, I really want to go to Minnesota. Like, I don't really want to go to, like, I just can't see myself living here in Kentucky because, you know, my girlfriend doesn't want to live here. So, and I don't want to live somewhere where my girlfriend isn't going to be there. And, they were like, they were basically trying to pressure me and be like, hey man, if you don't live in Kentucky, like, Kentucky's very close to Nashville, like we can get you we know people, we can get you like a record deal and stuff. And like, if you go to Minnesota, you're not going to have a country music career because, there's no country music, there's no market for country music over there. And, I was naive as fuck. And so I didn't know, so I got really scared. And I went to my girlfriend, I was like, I'm scared. I think I want to live in Kentucky now. And she started crying because she knew that these assholes were being manipulative. And, sorry about that, that's my talking clock. She knew that they were being manipulative. And,
Yeah. That's all right. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that you've done obviously a magnificent job, as I knew you would, by the way.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah. So let's try to kind of start, not completely wrap it up for the episode, but let's start
Sure.
walking more towards, okay, after all this shit that hit the fan,
Yeah.
let's walk towards maybe a couple little sentences about, what you did after that. And then walk
Yeah,
towards
sure.
maybe some because you've done a great job at, illustrating your life story. And I just want you to
Yeah.
know that, a lot of guests here at Aaron's Opinion have had very, very, very similar experiences to you. These are experiences that we've been
sure.
hearing about. No, they're important for you to share too. But I'm just saying that a lot of this craziness, life is a journey for a lot of people, and I'm just so
Yeah.
glad to be able to share yours too. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, man.
So I
Yeah,
guess,
well,
one of the
yeah.
things that I kind of want to know, and I mean, this will lead into some questions about me, but,
Sure. Okay.
yeah, if you can kind of move towards, where things are now after you went through all this, where are you now today? What's going on now presently in 2025? And then the other
Yeah.
thing that I want to know, right, is, so what are some questions that you have for me? I find that a lot of people have questions and things like that they want to ask me about, who Aaron Richmond is, what is Aaron's opinion? I do like to let people ask questions that they have for me
Okay.
too towards the end. So yeah, try to
Cool.
try to move towards in that direction.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, after all the shit went down, I moved to Minnesota. I was finally able to get out of that hellhole that is Kentucky. And so now, in present day 2025, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment complex here in the Twin Cities area. And I turned this office space into kind of a little studio. So I've got a bunch of instruments around here. I got a couple of guitars. I got some keyboards. And yeah, I've been working on an album, as I stated at the beginning of this episode. And honestly, if you really want to hear more about my life story, just listen to that whole album, man. It tells a lot of it, a lot of what I just talked about. The relationship with me and my neighbor, my relationship with my mom, and how that's deteriorated. And yeah, it's very biographical, and I love that about music in general, is that it can bring a lot of people together. And
Absolutely. It definitely does. Absolutely. Yeah. And also too, you're on the playlist. So just click the link in the description to hear the playlist, and then you can get all of your music, all of your stuff that you've already put out there, and Spotify is already built into the playlist. So that's already a super good thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, make sure to stream that playlist, man, because there's probably besides me, there's probably a bunch of really great
there are, and you need to know who they are,
there,
because that's all the other great blind and one-sided musician is in that listing too. So that's a great list.
That's
absolutely
awesome. Yeah, man. Yeah, well, yeah, I do have one question for you, Aaron. What do you think of everything that I've said so far? What is your opinion?
My opinion is, unfortunately, as I was saying before, fortunately and unfortunately, your story and stories like it have been being repeated here on the podcast in many times and times over. Unfortunately, I'm discovering that a lot of these blind people are having these bizarre and traumatic experiences at very high percentages. And that when you mentioned the Social Security thing, yes, many, not all, but a very significant portion of blind people have their checks manipulated by parents, or just a lot of times people are just not honest about that type of thing. But and on top of that, the system, in my estimation, the system of social welfare and social securities is by nature a system of deception in some regards, philosophically too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that's not really a perfect answer or a perfect thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think, and I like what you said. I think that most of this is true, that what you have to do in life is find an outlet. For me, it's podcasting and giving others a chance to come and share their story, right? And for you, it's music. And I think that's so great. You were mentioning some of those old country stars that you like. Yeah, I like listening to them too. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
There's some some ridiculously beautiful music that was written a long time ago. And the fact is, it's beautiful then, it's beautiful now, it's always perfect. When music's perfect, it's perfect, right? If it's perfectly written, I would say, in my estimation, is if it's perfect forever. If it's perfectly written, it's always perfectly written. Is my estimation. Yeah. And you're getting into the podcast space a little bit, right? You're starting your own podcast. Talk about that for just a couple moments. Sure, go right ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, I am a big, stoner. I love marijuana. I just love.
Really, we never would have noticed much of the conversation has been so much of it has mostly been about that. Nothing personal, but I noticed that you kind of got on a little. That was a little tangent there. You got a little stuck there.
Yeah,
I wanted to tell a pretty tasteless joke because I kind of have a really because as you can tell, I have a really fucked up sense of humor. Like the stuff that comes out of my mouth is not okay.
I get it, dude. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, brace for impact. So when you were talking about the whole like technology behind what was it, the vapor, how you can add the flour into the vapor. And that's a whole process, and that's a whole this, that's a whole that. The only punchline I could come up with that is it's not really that sophisticated. It's not really a process. It's not really chemistry. It's not really weed. It's just dope. Is all it is. It's just a dope process.
That's funny. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking right when you were saying that. I was thinking
that's awesome.
Because you're like promoting their shit, man. I mean, you get it. I mean, hey, it's nothing personal. Like people, and I don't. By the way, I don't fault you for using drugs. I really don't. I don't fault you at all.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, let me go back and say, I'm not saying it's okay to use drugs. It's not. It completely fucks up your brain. And I can tell based on your speech pattern that you smoke. I mean, I'm not trying to illustrate it, but I'm showing you that it is noticeable.
Of course.
But you accept that, and that's you, and those are the choices you made. Now it seems like you're doing much better. Well, that's great, man. But also don't be ashamed of it. I mean, there are way more dangerous things than marijuana in my private opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these new, we're not going to get into a big tangent about it, but some of these new drugs that are out and some of these new stuff that people are doing now is far more dangerous than the marijuana. And I'm not at all surprised. I'm not at all surprised. I'm not going to, I'll say something privately in Messenger about your first time experience. Cause I have to be careful how deep I cut in with my twisted sense of humor.
No worries.
But none of that's surprising, and I think there's, the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of debate now about the validity of, whether it's good or bad. And I'm not going to answer that. We're not going to get into that. But the fact is, don't sweat it. Don't be embarrassed about that, or, or if you still occasionally once a year smoke, like that's not the end of the world. Many people, luckily I'm very blessed that for a variety of complications, I just never did that and never will and never had that issue. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people need that outlet, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's nothing to be celebrated. It's just, part of the spiritual journey,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I've,
absolutely. So you're going to start this podcast where you're going to
yeah.
connect with other, should I say other like people who also are into that like culture, right? Is that the point of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, I'm going to, connect with other, I like to call them, blind cannabis enthusiasts.
You're sure they're not dopes?
Well,
why do they have to be blind ones? Why can't you interview all the sighted people? There's more sighted people. Why do you have to discriminate
yeah,
against the sighted users?
that's
they matter
true.
too.
Yeah,
they matter.
that's fair. Yeah.
After all, it was the sighted people that invented that technology.
That's true. Oh yeah.
I think there's been a couple.
Well,
probably
I think
whoever invented all that tech that you were talking about though earlier, whoever invented that. They're definitely probably living a wonderful life in some palace somewhere in some.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is kind of how I'm looking at it to go, at least for the first, couple of episodes until it takes off. I do kind of plan to more interview exclusively with blind people because that's really all that I can get a hold of. But once it really kind of takes off, I do plan to branch out and interview more sighted folks. Hell, I might even go to my, because there's a dispensary that's not too far from my apartment complex.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll go in there one day with a microphone and interview some of the workers.
Remember, you should ask them first. Hey, do you guys mind if you're on a podcast? And I think
sure, yeah, of course,
yeah.
I would never just start recording.
There's something.
No.
I don't know, man. There's crazy people in society. You never know these days.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I got you.
I would say, yeah. I would say, generally speaking, there's something, there's definitely an element of kind of it's really cool, man. I get it. I'm not a user, but I totally get it. And I think there's something kind of endearing about that, actually, connecting with society in that way, is being able to connect with people. And provided that, that it's a legitimate dispensary and things like that, provided, all that.
Yeah.
I think probably if you write to them formally and say, would you be interested in coming to my podcast to speak about, the history of the dispensary, the one thing that I think you could really focus on and outline though, when you do stuff like that is try to educate people about what you think, in your opinion, are the legitimate health benefits, if there are any, of using, and then what the dangers are. I think if you're very objective about it and professional, I think it's okay, and I think you'll definitely get some listeners for sure. Without doubt, there's a lot of society, fortunately and unfortunately. Well, mostly it's unfortunately, but unfortunately, much of society uses drugs. You need some sort of outlet, some sort of substance. And unfortunately, or actually this is the fortunate part, most people now listen to podcasts. So I think the two will come together.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a sale. That'll be there's all sorts of words that are floating. You can hear them in my mind. There's words that are floating in my mind.
I can hear the wheels turning.
Yeah. I'm trying to still keep it tasteless, keep it politically incorrect, but also keep it cool, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But no, I wish you all the best too with the music.
Thank
and all
you.
Of that.
Thank you, man.
I think when you join my WhatsApp groups, you'll find that we have blind musicians. I can get you, seriously, if you want to be a professional musician, if you want that, I know people who will definitely be able to help you professionally and get you into the space professionally, if that's something you want to do.
Oh, yeah, man, that would be really awesome because, that's what I'm trying to do for the last,
if you're serious, you know what I'll
years.
say? Okay, but if you're serious about it, please connect with me off air, and
Sure.
I would be willing to put you in touch with some people who might be able to help you advance your music, and things like that. I would want to hear a cover, of some of my favorite country music too.
I'm sure I can do that.
Well, let's go. You know what? I like the way that ended. I'm sure I can do it. You know what? For someone who's basically you've had a pretty shitty life so far, but in coming out of this, that's a good attitude to end on. I think that says a lot about you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're a good guy. You were kind of on, you had you got kind of stuck in your life there for a while. But I obviously can't discuss it on the podcast, but I understand. We've had a lot of friends and family members and as we say, people that I know, we know, our family has known that have had these very shockingly similar experiences. And this, unfortunately, the reality is people have to have a lot of really bad experiences before the experience gets a little bit good. So that's kind of the problem. All right, John.
Yeah, that's
John Dowling Jr. By the way, that's a great name for a country star. In case you're wondering, that's nothing's better than John Dowling Jr. I mean, that's perfect. So seriously, yeah, I think we've covered it. I think we've covered it today. I do want to talk to you about two things off air, but still on Zoom, and I'll show you in a minute. So anyway, John, if you can ask me only one question to really make me sweat, to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster, what do you want to ask me?
All right. When you eat your pizza.
Oh, God. So we go from dope to weed to Social Security to pizza?
Oh, yeah, man. You know, after you smoke weed, you got to have some munchies.
Oh, you don't. I'll show you food. Let me tell you. Oh, I know food. Let me tell you something. There's something called alcohol. I can show you all about it. Trust me. Okay, what's your question?
Okay. When you eat your pizza, do you like pineapple on your pizza?
Yeah, I do. How did you know?
I don't know. Well, I don't. I'm actually.
Well, why'd you bring it up? You asked me if I like the thing. Why are you asking me? What's wrong with you? Why did you ask that? Hey, do you like pineapples? No. Well, why are you asking?
Well, just because, I wanted, because I know that that's a very controversial topic.
So you basically wanted to drive right into controversy. Oh, man.
Yes, I did.
You're a character. No, yeah, I definitely like the Hawaiian, the spicy sausage, jalapenos.
Okay.
I'm actually a French speaker, so French is my second language.
Oh, wow.
So when I go to France, I always get the pizza. The real pizza over there in France is the real deal.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I wish I'd known that, or else I would have tried some, because I went to France last year, actually, for my wedding. Yeah.
Really?
Man, I wish I knew that you spoke French, man. I would have had you come along so you could help translate.
Well, probably not, because when I translate French, the person with me has to eat pineapple pizza, so I probably wouldn't have come.
Oh, hell.
I'm curious. This is none of my damn business. I'm really sweating here. I'm really pushing you. When you were in France, did you go to any of the hookah bars and have a good hookah?
We did not, and I wanted to, but no, that did not happen, sadly.
Okay, that's interesting. There's a lot of places you can go in France, and should we say, not that you've never been to a questionable neighborhood, but there's plenty of,
especially around Philadelphia, man. There are a lot of questionable neighborhoods over there.
Yeah, I know. Have you ever heard of a place called Broad Street in Temple University? Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, that's where so I have a friend who graduated from there, and
oh man,
I'll tell you a lot more off here, but we were always concerned. Yeah. We were always concerned.
Oh no.
Anyway, wow. well, like we say about Philadelphia, your home city where you started out, the greatest thing about Philadelphia, there's only one thing that's great about Philadelphia. Do you know what it is?
Is it the cheesesteak?
No. It's the 4th of July, 1776. And from there, everything collapsed.
I love it. That's awesome.
Man, oh man, don't forget everybody to click the link in the description to learn more about John Dowling Jr., his amazing music, and obviously, you're a character. You have a huge spirit and a huge personality. So don't forget, everybody, click the link in the description that John Dowling Jr. provided. And until next time, everybody, don't forget, thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget to go eat some Hawaiian pizza. And be well, everybody out there. And of course, until next time, help one person today and help 1 million people tomorrow.